At best, the alien abduction phenomenon is a terrifying, traumatic experience. At its worst, well, we think they sometimes take people and don't put them back.
I lost my mother and brother to this trauma. He murdered her, then killed himself.
These women are being used as human incubators, with all their children stolen away into the night.
A 6-foot-tall entity of blue-white light paralyzed me, then bent down and said into my ear, "Hi, Steve." It knew my name.
We hear gruesome stories of experiments and dissections. Imagine dying on a metal table while paralyzed, surrounded by alien faces. It's a real horror story. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Abductions 101, UFOs and the Paranormal Connection. I'm your host, Leslie Shaw.
I'm Stephen Shaw.
And tonight we're going to talk about an incident that happened to Stephen.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is actually to do with military stuff. And I don't know if people are familiar in California with things called like the Integratron and Giant Rock, which are in Landers, California, which is in the high eastern deserts, basically south of Los Angeles by about 150 miles.
North of Joshua Tree and Yucca Valley.
Yes, it's another big hot area. The big 29 Palms military base is out there. So,
yes, it's the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center.
Right, it's about 1,000 square miles, one of the biggest in the world. So anyway, a group of us, 9 of us, were celebrating a friend's birthday. This was June 11th, 2006. We went to the Integratron, which is a fascinating place. Started the celebration there. Then we went over to Giant Rock, which is the world's largest boulder. So anyways, we had the cars parked there. It's way out in the desert, right? And we're this nighttime. It's 9 o'clock at night. And again, this is June 11th, 2006. And some of the girls are dancing. And the moon was rising from the east. It was a big full moon. And the only reason that we saw this is because the moon was backlighting these 2 helicopters. They were black, unmarked black helicopters. They're coming from the east, look like from the military base. And the only reason we knew they were there is because we saw them with the moon. They came over where we were. They're about 150 feet above us at the most, dead silent. And they did basically a circle around the Giant Rock and then headed back to the military base. Completely soundless. If it had been a dark night, we would have had no clue that they were there. So just want to let people know that we do have some advanced technology,
and they are real. The black helicopter, you'll have heard of them here and there, but Stephen is an actual witness to them.
And I did a tour in 1983 on that base out in the desert with the CBs, and then I did a short. I worked there also, doing Afghan support back from 2011 to 2013, also on the outskirts of the base too. So I do have association. I also haven't been in the military in the CBs for 6 years. So, these are things that a lot of people think, oh, well, they hear about the black helicopters, but until you see them, you don't realize how sneaky they can be.
And they're real.
They're real.
It's a real thing.
9 people, myself and 8 other people saw them.
So we're wondering if this could be reverse alien technology, reverse engineered technology.
Likely.
Because that's something that UFOs share with
sound canceling.
Yeah, with the black helicopters.
Right.
They're silent.
A little tidbit I hadn't shared with the audience till now, so I just wanted to share that while I remembered.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you, darling. And tonight, our wonderful guest is Lon Strickler. He is the host of the Phantoms and Monsters radio program, which is now really, it's a streaming, everything's gone to streaming services, and he's now, he has a YouTube channel of the same name. And he's just finished his 10th book. So we're going to get the name of that book. And
we'll get a glimmer of it, at least.
That's a tease. All right, we'll be back in just a minute.
Talk.
Good evening. Are you wondering if the UFO phenomenon is real?
Are you wondering who is flying the UFOs in our skies?
Are you wondering if aliens are really abducting people?
Then you need to read this book.
The book is titled Who They Are and What They're Up To.
Find out the true identity of the aliens.
Learn a very brief history of the UFO cover-up.
Find out where the aliens are hiding.
Find out why our government is in league with them.
Learn about their bizarre hybrid breeding program.
Find out why their technology is 13,000 years ahead of ours.
The reference section of this book alone is worth the price.
Again, that was Who They Are and What They're Up To by Leslie and Stephen Shaw.
Now available on Amazon and coming soon in the Spanish and Czech languages.
And soon to be in English and Spanish audiobook.
With a new foreword by fellow author and abductee Karen Wilkinson.
Again, that was Who They Are and What They're Up To by Leslie and Stephen Shaw, now available on Amazon. Welcome back to our show, everyone. I did it again. Abductions 101, UFOs and the Paranormal Connection. I'm your host, Leslie Shaw.
Co-host Stephen Shaw, hello.
And we have a wonderful guest tonight. Lon Strickler is he's a paranormal researcher, an author, a producer, a blogger, and the host of the Phantoms and Monsters radio show. Did I get all that right, Lon?
Yes, you did.
All right. Okay, that's a good start.
Welcome. You have one of those buttery voices that really belongs on the radio.
Yeah.
I keep hearing that, but I don't get it. So, you know.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
It's in the lower register. Because I'm a musician, I can hear it in the lower register. You got a little bit of
resonance.
a little bit of color in the lower resonance. It's just kind of your vocal cords and all are arranged. You know.
How long have you been?
They call it warmth in the lower register.
Oh. How long have you been doing your show, Lon?
The show's come in different forms for about the past 11 years. I've been on other shows as well. I mean, you know, I did shows where I was just a co-host and such, but no, about 11 or 12 years.
And you're it says author. What have you written?
Well, I've just finished my 10th book, and this recent book was a collaboration with two other investigators on the Glimmerman phenomena.
What's the name of the book?
Glimmerman, cloaked beings that move among us.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. We're very interested in the cryptid phenomenon too. We, of course, have our own take on it.
Of course.
We think aliens are not really aliens, but humans that broke away from us during the Great Flood, retreated underground to survive the Great Flood, which was caused by the Younger Dryas comet, we now know. Mm-hmm. And we think that they're down there underground, launching their UFOs from there and breeding all these weird cryptids. And we were further backed up in this belief by the fact that the DNA coming back on Bigfoot is half human.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we think they're stealing human DNA and creating Bigfoots and dogmen and perhaps Glibberman.
Right.
What do you think? Is our theory, you think, is hitting the mark?
We'd love to hear your take on it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I've been doing this a long time. I'm going almost into 50 years now. And as time has gone on, my perspective has kind of changed a bit as time has gone. Mm-hmm. But in recent investigations, particularly with the Chicago Mothman, Chicago winged humanoid investigations that we've been involved with for over a decade now.
Yeah.
I believe cryptids, for the most part, are ultra-terrestrial beings. In other words, they're coming in here through some type of mechanism, being able to jump dimensions, possibly other realms or realities. I mean, I do have my own theories about aliens, alien abductions, and that I believe the aliens that people do see or have experiences with are basically evolved humans who have the ability to come back. And they do come back, and I think they do some changes, or they help us avoid things and such without us really knowing it. Though, of course, you know, the powers that be probably know what's going on. But I think they have been coming back and looking into us and trying to get back what they may have lost from us over many, many years. And after writing a book about alien abduction and encounters and such, and working with others as far as their experiences, I do believe for the most part that abductions are not necessarily stealing or taking DNA, but possibly trying to find a way to be more like us or what they used to be at some point. And I think a big part has, and of course, I've heard this from other experiencers as well, who have had abduction, particularly reptilian abductions, where they were told that there's at least one thing that they really envy humans for, though they have no affinity for us, is that we do believe in an afterlife, and we do believe we have an external soul or angels or whatever guarding us, and that they do have a higher being, but it's not in the same context as what we believe, or many of us believe, as far as having a supreme being. So I think I think a lot of it has to do with jealousy. I think they recognize that humans do have certain powers among them. Some are very psychic, some have other abilities and such, and that they're more in tune with their soul, the outside energies, everything around them, that's something that they want to find again. And I think that is a big part of what's going on.
Interesting. Why particularly with the reptilians, would you say?
Well, I don't know if it's just necessarily the reptilians, but it could be others as well, because, investigating abductions over all these years, and it's become more and more apparent that these beings are not working alone. They're working with other races, other types of creatures, even humans. Many times now, when I get a case, it involves also humans helping them as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that being said, but many of my, the most dramatic encounters that my experiences have had have been most reptilians, for whatever reason. Everything comes in all shapes and sizes, and it's just different. This one particular individual who I'd worked with for over a decade was literally having them coming to his house, and he was photographing and getting videos and such of this actually happening.
Wow.
And he and his family had gone through abduction experiences for almost 6 or 7 years. So he couldn't get anybody to help them out, but he and I eventually hooked up, and then we worked together pretty intense for the first year or so, until I actually started believing what he was telling me. I mean, it took that long. I had been involved with other cases, but his case in particular just seemed too fantastic to be real, until I started getting the evidence and started seeing it. And something was
I know what you mean.
on.
As we were researching our book, I kept thinking, God, I have to write this into a book?
Well, the reason why we wrote it was because of my family history for 4 generations minimum. Okay, going back to Germany, definitely England, Scotland, and here, over 4 different bloodlines. I have been approached when I was 18 by tall, gray, about 6.5 foot tall, blue in color. I was 5:30 in the morning. It was in January of 1979. This was happening to the whole family in 2 different locations, 350 miles apart. All the women on my mom's side had been automatic writers apart from one. So there's a psychic component there. Also the Scottish blood too. So anyways, we had a whole series of things happen over 5 nights. The one that culminated with this 4th one was I was scared to sleep in my room because of what had happened the night before.
Mm-hmm.
And just to give you a little bit of background, our families had this, we called it a spirit guide, which isn't a spirit guide, but going back, called O'Glegley from the old country.
Which we now believe is a tall
that
gray.
has manifested to several people. Saved one guy, one of my uncle's lives, actually post World War II. Always appears the same. Tall, slender, about 6.5 feet tall. Sometimes appears black. For me, it was blue-white. My brother actually saw it as a tall gray when he was 16 in a different location. So anyway, this being approached me, like came through a portal, a blue portal, bringing all the blue-white light with it into the house. I was laying on the couch, too early to get up at 5:30 in the morning, and this covered the distance about 20 feet in about a second or two. Stopped on my right-hand side. All the blue-white stopped with it. It didn't go through the house. It just stopped with me. It bent down, and it said into my ear, "Hi, Steve." It's clear as day. And I'm thinking, at being 18 years old, I'm thinking, I'm going to get to see the family spirit guide, Old Glegley. And I can kind of see, I can see its outline. I know what it looks like. And part of me was just terrified because it paralyzed the right side of my body. It just like turned off my nervous system. I could move the left side if I wanted to, but the right side was just paralyzed. And I guess it basically could feel that I was kind of like nervous, right? And it got it unbent and then took the light with it, disappeared, and then I blacked out. Told my dad about it. I was a cabinet maker at the time. My dad and I were cabinet makers. We worked at our house. So 11:30 rolled around. I decided I'm going to go get some food for it. So I reached into my right-hand side pocket of the pants I had worn to bed, and I pulled out the coins, standard America coins, put them on the table. All the coins were magnetized. I could pick up the coins by the face, by the edge. It didn't matter. My dad could do the same thing, too. This is 6 hours after this happened.
So we surmise he was exposed during his abduction.
This has been a recurring theme with our family bloodline.
Some powerful magnetic field.
Yeah, so we don't know what that was about. But it was
Have you ever heard of that, Lon? Have you ever heard of anyone's being abducted and coming back with magnetic coins or other objects magnetized?
I've heard a lot of different things. The magnetism I have heard of.
Have you?
Yeah, and it's usually when it's a singular being type of abduction or experience. It's not one of those situations where they got all types of different beings and such in one room or whatever. It's usually not associated with any type of experimentation or such. It's almost like it's a cursory exam that you come in, they brought them in there, and then they were there along. They talked a bit or communicated a bit, and when they left, they found out that they had this magnetism or abilities, and it was drawing different things, and they were seeing different things and feeling, different for a while. It didn't last, but it was normally something like that.
Yeah, it was strange. My dad.
I have heard that before.
Too, yeah. Yeah.
So that's a new one, huh?
Yeah. My dad could do it too. So it was, like I say, the night before, I was approached in my bedroom and the bed started being pushed from and then 3 times that happened. Then I got tapped on the shoulder 3 times. And then I spun around and said, "What do you want?" And I could see a shimmery object, but then I blacked out. It turned out years later, we found that I had an implant in the exact spot on the right deltoid.
Where the guy where it was tapped. Yeah. And I heard Whitley Strieber had the same experience. They put an implant in his earlobe, and he one of the gray aliens tapped his earlobe 3 times, right where the implant was put. Have
you talked to a lot of people that have had implants removed, or probably have over the years?
Yeah, I had talked to several who had actually had Dr. What was the guy's name? Remove some from. He passed away about a decade ago. Dr. Lear.
Oh yes, Dr. Lear.
And it was actually 3 or 4 different. It might have been 4 people who I talked to about that who had actually had him have surgery. Most of them were either in their arms and legs. I don't remember anything else as far as any other work he had done, but with them. But that's where it was. So many times it was in the upper arm or in the thigh.
Yep.
But they were objects that shouldn't have been there. So,
Right.
Most definitely. Steve's was looked like a metal grain of rice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I've seen our friend Paula. Our friend
Very,
described
very
it as like a little square chip with little wires coming off of it.
Mm.
That one got pulled out of her leg, and yeah, it sounded it was incredibly painful, and the thing was like trying to get away from the surgeon. It kept going deeper and deeper, and he had to dig deeper and deeper to get it to grab it and pull it out.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
How did you start in the paranormal?
Well, I'm an intuitive and I'm a clair-sentient. So, I actually started noticing it when I was younger. That I had abilities or something. I just didn't understand what was going on. I knew something was going on, but I just didn't understand it.
Sure.
What's a clair-sentient? Exactly.
I can sense energy. I can sense other energies around me without seeing them. I mean, and many times I see it in colors, actually, in my mind's eye. But I I lived near Gettysburg, and I do now. I moved back up here from Maryland, and I used to go out on the battlefield, especially on Saturdays during the summer, and just spend time there, And it was just something I enjoyed doing, and I was just drawn to the place. Always have been. So I was about 9 years old. I was on my bike. It was 1967, I think it was. And I was on the battlefield at the area around where they called the Valley of Death, which is between Little Round Top, Wheatfield, and Devil's Den. And I was on the access road. And literally just suddenly a huge TV screen opened up in front of me. And I was in the battle. I was literally seeing soldiers, hearing gunfire, cannon, smelling gunpowder, hearing the scream.
Oh my God.
And, I was right there. And that lasted for about maybe 30 seconds, and it just slowly faded away. And, I'm thinking to myself, I don't, you're a 9-year-old kid. You don't know what the hell's going on. You don't know anything about the paranormal. Your parents are very conservative, and nobody in the family's got a paranormal bone in their body. So you're just wondering why this is going on. And like I said, I had inklings of this when I was younger, but when that happened, then I started knowing that when these strange feelings would come over me and I'd be sensing different things, that I was starting to understand what was going on. It took a while until I could actually start at a point where I could use it, which was when I was in high school in the early 70s. I started doing paranormal investigations in high school. I was literally going to businesses, homes, and such. It was all word of mouth, no internet, no cell phones, nothing. And you'd hear about a case, or somebody would contact you through someone who had known about me, and I would literally just go and do the investigations. And people would ask, "Well, what are you doing? What are you doing?" I'm a paranormal investigator. That's what I was calling myself back then. They're like, "Well, what the hell is a paranormal investigator?" I mean, it's not like mainstream is now. It's
So you were doing that even before Ghostbusters in '83. So
I was doing that 15 years before they even thought about doing a TV show.
I just read an interesting ghost story about Gettysburg. Apparently, sometimes people, they hear music out on the battlefield, like pipe and drum, like marching music. And I was wondering if you had ever heard that.
Yeah, it happens a lot. In fact, I used to do private tours out the battlefield many years ago, and it was mostly paranormal based, but it was a lot of history involved too. And
sure.
you kind of connected it together. But I was fairly young when I was doing it. In fact, I was living in Baltimore and driving up here and giving private tours. Many times it's just celebrities who just didn't want to go on the regular tour. Even the ghost thing back then was big. I mean, people were seeing ghosts on that and other activities on that battlefield for almost a century and such after the war. So, so I was doing that. But anyway, I would literally have people come up, even regular people who weren't even into tours. And I did have a designation because I was licensed by the feds as far as the Park Service. And I've had maybe 3 times when people will come up to me. One woman in particular, because it was over by Devil's Den. And this woman said to me, she said, I didn't know they were doing reenacting here today. And I told her, I said, well, where did you see this at? Over there in that field over there north of us, which was the wheat field. It kind of made me laugh because I've heard people talk about seeing regiments marching through fields and such for years. And I have seen a few things as well. It's mostly residual, but occasionally it's got a little more to it. There can be some sounds. There can be drumming and marching and fifes and stuff. And but we hear that all the time from people. We saw a soldier over there or a soldier standing here. These reenactors they really looked the part, and okay.
Has anybody gotten any FLIR type or just video
I'm sure
this happening? Yeah. I'm sure they've got audio recordings and stuff.
Well, there is a fairly famous video that's out that was taken over by not far from Culp's Hill, between Spangler Springs and Culp's Hill, where a woman from down south had a camcorder, and she literally saw these troops marching through the woods. And then it would rerun itself. Like it'd start and go to the end and then start up again, just like a film being rewound.
That's common, I believe, with ghosts, like repetitive behavior, right?
Yeah, it's residual energy. I mean, because of all of it that happened there and the geography of the place and how things seem to just be imprinted, you see a lot of different things. There's a famous woman in white who floats down from Spangler Spring down onto the road. I've probably seen that a half dozen times. I used to take my dates out there, to be honest with you. And there were 2 occasions when the girl I was with, they saw it, and it was just like a woman dressed in white. You could barely distinguish it. And there's a monument there, and above the monument, there's a bit of a hill, and she just floats down the hill and just floats across the road.
I bet your date jumps into your arms after that.
Well, I warned her about it. I said, don't get too freaked out. But I had a warped sense of humor. But
I think it's hilarious myself.
Have you been paying attention all to that missing Major General McCaslin?
I have been reading about it. I did an article about it about a week and a half ago. I don't know what that's all about. I mean, it does seem awful strange. The intuitive part of me, and I really hate to say this, but I don't think the man's around anymore. I think it was something self-inflicted that he just went and took off. And now if there were pressures behind it or anything else, maybe there was a reason behind it. I don't know what stress he was under, though he was retired. I'm quite sure he was still involved with what he had originally been doing. So, I don't know what the full story is on that, but it's interesting. It's not something you see all the time.
What we find kind of also interesting is that one of his former colleagues, last name is Riza, was it?
Monica
Riza?
Riza. Reza. She was a colleague of his, and about a year ago, she went missing very mysteriously too.
It was in June of last year. She was on a hiking trail with
here in California, I believe, and she near Griffith Park, I think it was, and she was hiking along with another person, and he was only 30 feet away from her, and he turned, and she was just gone, and she's never been found. So we have no idea
what that connection
if there's a connection or not. But I find it very suspicious coming so quickly on the heels of President Trump's announcement to release the video files and the the legacy program. Now that we're pushing so hard, and Congress is pushing hard, and the president is pushing hard for disclosure, I think it's kind of pushing them into a corner, and they might be getting, like any animal that's trapped in a corner, they might become more dangerous as time goes on. I was worried that other UFO insiders might start vanishing as well, but that's just me.
Over the years we've had a few. I mean, there have been a few investigators who just either turned up missing or were demised. But we just it does seem awful strange. There's several people who I knew who have just gone missing or turned up dead or whatever at some point. You're involved with this for a long time. Even though UFOs and ufology isn't my main thing, there's a lot of strange things going on. I, like most people, have no idea what it is. I've been approached on 3 occasions for cases I've been involved with over time, and it just happens. So they're keeping an eye on you. I mean, there's been a few things that I have seen over that period of time that just makes me wonder what's really going on. Though I don't think we're going to find out a whole lot. I think they're basic at this point, spoon feeding us, and just to see how we react to things. But
that's for sure.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So
have you ever had a cryptid encounter yourself?
I had 2.
Oh, can we hear all about it?
Yeah, in 1981, I had a Bigfoot encounter outside, just east of Sykesville, Maryland. Yeah. And what happened was I was about a mile downstream from the town, and it was an area on the South Branch Patapsco River. I used to do a lot of fly fishing. Well, I did a lot of fly fishing all up and down the coast. But anyway, it was an area I knew. So I was standing in the river, and it wasn't deep, and it was very narrow there. It's just a branch. And I had noticed across the river, maybe about 50 foot away, there was a pretty good sized dog in the weed, just moving in and out, but he wasn't bothering me. I didn't care. I just kept on fishing until I heard the dog yelp. And when it yelped, I looked across the way, and this thing stood up in the weeds. It was huge. I mean, I've estimated eventually it was about 7.5 to 8 foot in height. Dark brown in color, long shaggy hair in some spots, and I didn't really get a good look a good look at it until it started walking out, and it walked towards my left and walked out onto the riverbank. Got within like 40 foot of me. We were very close.
Wow!
And we just stood there looking at each other. We locked eyes on each other for like 10 seconds. And this thing was, it was definitely male, and it was just muscular, huge. It had a conical head. That slight conical head had very thick brow ridges, but, I got a good look at its face, and it looked more human than anything to me.
I know. That's
it reminded me, I always said that it kind of looked like a Neanderthal, even though it had all that hair and up on. The face itself had that Neanderthal look to it, or like early man look. Mm-hmm. And as we were looking at each other, it just stopped. It turned around and walked up into the woods very, very swiftly. And I mean, it wasn't like I was going to get it out of the river and start following this thing. I mean, I'm standing there watching this thing go up into the woods. I'm hoping it's not coming back. So I decided to get out of the river and drive into town and call the police. Now this is 1981. I heard about Bigfoot. Patterson Gimlin film and all the other stuff, and I knew about it. But I wasn't really into cryptids at that time. So what happened was I got in the car, turned around, went into town, found the first payphone, called the police, Sykesville Police Department. Woman on the other side of the phone said, "Okay, well, I tell you, we'll call it in. We'll have an officer meet you there." I'm thinking, well, I don't really want to go back there, but I will. But so, it was only like a 3-minute drive back. So I got right back in my car. I drove back. And by the time I got back there, and I still don't understand how they found the exact spot, but there was a Maryland State Police officer already standing there with the 2 wooden trestles across the road. Now, that's what they used to put across there. And wow, how did this guy get his offense, let alone a Maryland State Police officer? So he had me roll down my window, and I said, "Look, I just made the call to Sykesville Police. He told me to come back and talk to an officer." And he said, "You got to leave." I said, "Well, you don't want to report or anything?" "No, you got to leave." Okay. Well, I lived in Sykesville at the time, so I just turned around and went back home.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here? So about an hour later, I was at home. I just said, well, I'm driving back down, see what's going on down there. I figured I got back, there wouldn't be anything going on. Everything would be cleared out and everything. But when I drove back up the road, I was about a quarter mile away from where it happened at. And I had to literally find a parking space along that road because it was cars all up and down the road. It was people everywhere.
Wow. The word got out, huh?
Well, they were all either local police, jurisdiction, and feds.
Oh, okay.
The feds too. Wow.
They had 2 black Wagoneers, which they used to drive back in that time, and they were parked over there across the way from us. They had people with dogs going through the woods. They had a big old white tent set up across the way where I had seen this thing. So I'm wondering what is going on. So I walked back up to the barrier, and there was a Howard County police officer standing there at the time. And I said, "Look, I'm trying to get over to Marriottsville." He said, "Well, you're going to have to go back and take a detour on 32 and go around." I said, "What's going on?" Just playing dumb, and right. So he started laughing. So somebody said, "This all Bigfoot." Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm thinking myself, and I didn't say anything else. And because by that time I saw the cop I had originally seen, and I didn't want to be talking to him. So
yeah, time to get out of there.
Yeah. So I walked, right back to the car and went home. So when I got home, I decided, well, I'm going to make some calls. So I called all 3 of the TV stations in Baltimore at the time, the network stations. And I told each one of them what I had just happened, what was going on. And each one of them told me, "Look, we get a little more information about it. We'll talk to you. Give us your number. We'll call you back." Okay. Well, I figured they'd call back in a day or 2. Well, I didn't see anything on the news or anything. Nobody was saying anything. And about a week later, I hadn't heard from the TV stations. So I called one of them. I called WMAR, and I got a hold of the news editor. I said to him, I said, "Look, I don't know if I talked to you originally or not." I told him who I was, told him what had happened. And he said, "I can't talk to you," and hung up on me.
Wow.
So then I knew something was up.
Yep.
And as time had gone on, I eventually I found out that 8 years previous to that, they had a rash of Bigfoot sightings, which they were calling the Sykesville Monster. I never heard about it when I was living up in Pennsylvania, but as a kid, but I didn't know what it was all about. But I was lucky enough to to be working with a gentleman. He was basically the patriarch of the area, because this was a small village-like area down along the river in Sykesville. All African American family members and such who had these original encounters. They had made the original report with some reporters from the Baltimore Afro-American newspaper. So that's where it's originated at. And then the story apparently got out, and in the paranormal circles, there was a big thing about the Sykesville monster. I had never known about it. So anyway, I talked to the guy I worked with. He said, years ago they had the Sykesville monster sightings after, about a year after Agnes, and which was Tropical Storm Agnes.
Yeah.
And people started seeing these things. It was getting into homes and getting into garages and chicken pens and causing all kinds of havoc. There were probably about 8 original witnesses, 8 different sightings. And in fact, there was a police officer who I eventually found out about, who had gone for a call there to one of the homes where this thing had gotten into the garage. And he went to the door and tried to open it up. And when he opened the door, this thing knocked the door down right on top of him and walked out of there. Now, he got a glance of it.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah. And they did find prints too.
It wasn't a raccoon.
Yeah. So, so I got to talk to a lot of people. That's really when my interest in cryptids began. And, and I kept on going, kept on looking into it. I really wanted more answers about what I had encountered. And over the years, I had talked to police officers who were there. I talked to other witnesses who had seen many different types of creatures that could be classified as Bigfoot. But, there's still still an empty spot there to my encounter, that encounter in particular, where I just have questions.
I find it interesting that they, first of all, believed you right away and sent a response.
I did find out a little bit about that. Now, there was a report from a woman in Marriottsville about 3 hours prior to mine, and she made a call to the police. But the fact that the feds were there and that, they don't show up for that stuff. Even the cops rarely would show up. But they were looking for something. And I don't think it was because of her sighting. I think it was because of something else that possibly escaped from somewhere. Look, the Baltimore, Washington area where I lived at, for people who live around there, they know there's a lot of buildings that have no names on them. They have nothing there. You can't tell what they are. They're out in the middle of nowhere in the woods and stuff. And there's a lot of that around there. So you just don't know what you're dealing with if you're dealing with with the government. And, I found out much more after that with some of the facilities in and around in the Maryland area, with possible experimentation and stuff with these creatures, escapes and such. So, but nothing definitive, nothing to where I can really hang my hat on to say, look, that was related to what I was going through. But there's still a lot of questions about it. And I talk to people all the time who have encounters in that general area. So it's still going on, even though it's built up now.
So it's a Bigfoot hotspot, would you say?
Yeah, it's an area. BFRO has identified 4 Class A sightings there within maybe a 10 square mile area, mostly in Patapsco State Park. So, if you want to call it a hotspot, I'd say it's a hotspot. There's a lot going on there. Yeah, now, in recent years, I don't know, but I have had some encounter reports.
Yeah, I did have a couple of questions. Probably people want to know what happened to the dog and what time of the day was this happening. You say you were fly fishing, so was it early or was it getting towards nighttime?
Yeah, it was 10 o'clock in the morning,
okay.
May 9th, 1981, bright morning, a little warm. I was just fly fishing. I used to fly fish for smallmouth. And that was just the way I just liked fly fishing. So anyway, the dog, I saw the dog after I got back up the road. It looked like it may have been injured. I couldn't really tell. He seemed fine to me, but he just shook up, I think.
Sure.
I don't know if this thing took a swipe at him. It did yelp, so maybe he did take a swipe at it. But it made itself across the river because the river wasn't that deep anyway, and got up to my side and was going down the road when I left.
Can't blame him for that.
It was 10 o'clock in the morning on a sunny day, so there weren't any like shadowing effects. It was just basically you could see what you saw.
Yeah, it was very clear. I mean, the woods itself was behind us, and the river area didn't have a whole lot of vegetation, except for the area where he was either hiding at or sleeping or whatever. It was fairly tall. In fact, that came up to about his waist. So that was probably about 4 foot tall vegetation it came out of. I don't know. But I got a real good look at it. I mean, it was right up on me. Good.
You're lucky. That's
good. What was there was a Bigfoot. There was a fire. I think it was in Montana, if memory serves, or one of the Dakotas. But there was a forest fire, and these firemen, volunteer fire people, they discovered a burned corpse of a Bigfoot, and the government response to this sighting and this corpse, this discovery, was almost the same as if a big UFO had been seen. They descended on the area, threatened the witnesses, confiscated the evidence, of course, and forced everybody into silence, scaring them, threatening their families. The same kind of response that they do for UFOs.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that before. I mean, right after the Mount St. Helens eruption, there were apparently bodies found, some injured that were still alive, that they actually treated. I did know that the government contracted some workers from Weyerhaeuser who were doing logging and such in the area after everything had settled down, and they were starting to, clean things up or move things around. But what they were doing, they were taking these bodies out on helicopters. There have been several reports from different people at different levels who had mentioned this in the past. There have been other instances, but that's probably the biggest one out of the most, well-known one that I know of. That
one you saw, was it also a UFO hotspot in that region?
Not particularly, no.
No?
No, that park, that Patapsco State Park has had a lot of stuff go on. I mean, there's been a lot of sightings of a lot of different things, and UFOs have been part of it, but that's particularly further south as opposed to where I was. But I used to work in a mill for about 20 years that was right in the park. And we used to get reports I used to get reports of stuff all the time of people, from people who had seen these things, all kinds of different phenomena. So, it wouldn't surprise me. But as far as a lot of UFO reports, probably not a whole lot, but there have been some.
Okay.
Yeah, and you were saying that you've had 2 cryptid sightings. What was your second one?
Yeah, October 1988. Now, this is a weird one, and this ties into a lot of what I'm involved with now. But
okay,
I was living in Maryland. I was living in Baltimore at the time. One Sunday afternoon, I was up at Timonium Fairgrounds. They had I was antiquing, and I was by myself, and I had to walk through one of the exposition buildings, and there were a bunch of Boy Scout troops there. They were doing something. And I ran into a guy I went to school with up in Pennsylvania. Hadn't seen him in about a dozen years. And we had been in Boy Scouts together. And I recognized him right away. So he and I, kind of catching up on things. We sat down, had some lunch, and we were talking. And in fact, when we were younger, he used to go out onto the Gettysburg battlefield with me at nighttime. We used to camp out. That was when you could camp out. You can't do it now, but we used to spend a lot of time. He saw a lot of stuff with me. So he knew I was into all that. So anyway, we were talking. He said, look, are you still involved with the paranormal? I said, yeah. Why? What's going on? He said, well, I thought he was probably asked me a question about seeing something, but he said, me and another scout leader are going up the old Camp Conewago next weekend because there's been some strange stuff going on up there and we don't know what it is. He said the troops this past summer were going, spending the weekend in the woods camping as a troop itself. And they were hearing these god-awful screams coming out of the woods. And it was scaring them, and they were packing up and leaving early. And it happened, I think, 4 times during the summer previous. So he said we were going to go up and just camp out and, see what we could see. He said, you want to come along? I said, sure. So, yeah. So I met him up there the next Friday night. We got our stuff together, hiked into the woods, found a campsite I had been at many other times before, right along the Conewago Creek. There's a trail that runs right along the river, along the creek, and which was between the campsite and the creek. So we set up 3 tents, got everything going. By the time we were done, it was about 6 o'clock in the evening, just starting to get dark. And we were sitting around the campfire and just talking, nothing going on. So we thought, well, it was about 10 o'clock, I thought. So we decided to go to sleep because we were planning on doing a lot of hiking the next day. So we did. And the next morning we woke up and we were sitting around the fire, and the other guy said, did anybody notice anything walking through or hear anything walking through the campsite? And I did. I thought one of those guys was going into the woods and relieving themselves. I didn't know what it was, but nothing was moved around the campsite. It all looked, like nothing had been moved around and nothing changed. So I didn't think much of it. So anyway, we got on the trail, started hiking. Actually, we hiked the whole way back to Gettysburg and came back. We were gone till about close to 6 that evening. So we were out about 8 hours, and we were just stopping at one of the game land sites and others, but we didn't really see her, and I didn't sense anything. I couldn't tell what if there was anything involved. So we got back, and we sat around. We're just talking. I think we were talking football most of the night, and hadn't seen or heard anything. Then about, I'd say 9 or 10 o'clock, we heard a scream coming from the west. Now, it wasn't that horrific. It could have been an animal. It could have been anything. I didn't know what it was. I didn't really think much of it. I thought it was probably either, I don't know, maybe a deer screaming or something. There's a lot of wildlife in there, so it could have been anything. Mm-hmm. So, but we decided, we're going to stay up the rest of the night and see if anything happens. Okay. So, we were sitting around the campfire yet, and I'd say maybe 2 hours later, we heard this horrific, blood-curdling scream coming from the west of us again. And it was weird because it sounded like either something was running through the woods and get that Doppler effect, or something's flying, and it was screaming, but it was kind of coming in and out. And that really perked our hackles up a bit, and so we're ready for everything now. So so we're on edge. We're sitting around trying to small talk and not think about this, whatever this was. Watching it was getting really late. It was getting about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was getting stiff. And I got up and started walking around, trying to loosen up a bit. And I walked out onto the trail. And I just felt like something was going on. Like, you get that feeling like something's watching or something's near you or something. Yeah. So I went back and I told those guys, why don't we go out, grab the flashlights, go out onto the trail and go up and down the trail a bit and see if anything happens. Okay, we're not doing anything else. So that's what we did. So we grabbed our lights, walked out onto the trail, back to back to back. We maybe got about 50 foot away from the campsite, and then we saw it. Standing in the middle of the creek were these red lights. And now the creek was very shallow that time of year, and the moonlight was pretty bright. So we got a good look at it. But mostly what we saw were these red projecting light eyes. They were round. And by the time we got the flashlights on this thing, we heard this audible rush sound. This thing literally jettisoned itself up into the air, got to its apex, screamed, and took toward the west.
Yikes.
We didn't know what the hell we saw. So I did see some of it before it took off, but anyway, we literally ran back to the campsite, sitting around the fire, wondering what the heck we just saw. My buddy, he's not talking. He's in shock. I mean, he's just not saying a word. The other guy said, did you notice anything on its back? And I had, because it looked like it had wings coming over its head. Big.
I was going to say, like the Mothman is the one that has the glowing red eyes that I've heard, right?
Yeah, and one thing he noticed and I noticed was it didn't unfurl the wings when it took off. This thing just went straight up like a rocket being launched. You know, it was loud too when it came, you know, and when it rushed up.
Wow.
So we didn't know what to think. Well, by that time, my buddy's talking. He said, I'm not spending the night out here tonight. I'm going up the administration building and stay up there. So him and the other guy went up the administration building and slept up there. I stayed around because I wanted to see this thing again.
Yeah.
I didn't have, you know, I figured it was probably about 6 foot or so. It seemed like just dark color, kind of, I don't know, opaque, but it wasn't thick. It was narrow. It was emaciated looking. Well, anyway, the funny thing was I just told very few people about this. You know, I had heard of Mothman and the prophecies, and I had read all about it for years and years. And I thought, well, it seemed very similar to the Mothman, but I don't know what it was. So anyway, about 20 years later, in 2005, I started writing my blog, which I'm still doing now. Right. And I had started writing about experience that I had, some of the old cases I had done years and years ago. And I wrote an article about this encounter we had. So about 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from a guy who lived very near there at a place called Dick's Dam. And he said, you know, for the past 20 years, I've been hearing that screaming sounds coming out of these woods. Do you think it was what you had encountered? I said, I don't know. You know, I can't tell you that, but, you know, maybe it was. So not long after that, I got an email from a scout leader. And he told me, you know, not long ago, my troop and I had just been out to Camp Conewaga. We were spending the weekend. One Saturday afternoon, the boys were just out roaming around. There weren't any activities or anything going on. So they were just on the trail, just nosing around like kids do. They came running back, screaming, crying, and they told the scout leader we saw a dragon. And he thought, well, they're pulling my leg, you know. But they were crying. They were upset. They didn't leave, but they stuck around. But he didn't know what he thought they were playing a game with it. Well, when he read what I written, that's when he got a hold of me. So I said it could have very well been. I did find out that where they saw this thing was very close to where we had our encounter. Yeah. It was on that same trail. So anyway, so as time has went on, even up to maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I've had 5 other sightings along the Conewaga Creek in different areas of the creek, because this creek is probably about 15 miles long and empties into the Susquehanna. But there had been sightings all up and down that creek, at the creek, in these different locations. And people would contact me and tell me what they saw. Each time it was the red eyes, even during the day. And all of them were during the day. They'd be driving, wow. Yeah. And they'd be driving and they'd see this thing flying out of the small gully where the creek was going through and fly up over the trees. And they got very good looks at it. And in fact, I had one farmer who lived along the Conewaga Creek up near Dover. just north of Dover, Pennsylvania, and he saw things standing out in his field. He didn't have a camera or anything with him, but he, this was back in the early 90s. And he described exactly what I had seen. So there's something going on. We've had other sightings in other parts of this part of the state here in South Central Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing, and the thing that really gets me and it makes me think that it's connected somehow to my sighting, is this Chicago Mothman sightings that started back in 2011, though we have had other older sightings that came up when we got involved with the investigation. And the sightings were very similar to what I encountered in Pennsylvania. Mostly it's a 5 to 6 foot tall dark being with projecting red light from the eyes. There's some different variations. Some had arms, some didn't. They had them attached to their wings, or they were separate from the wings. Early on, we had Mothman-like descriptions, or Owlman-like descriptions with the feathered wings. But overall, for the past, I'd say for the past 5 or 6 years, it's been mostly the bat or gargoyle-like wings, the membrane wings. So at this point right now, we're still involved with the investigation. We're at 186 sightings within a 250-mile radius of downtown Chicago, which we feel are legitimate sightings. Right. And of course, we did the episode on Unsolved Mysteries back in 2004 about the Mothman and the encounters that happened up there. So it's something we're still involved with. I've got other projects probably going to be related to it eventually, but this is one of the, it's kind of like the investigation of a lifetime, because it keeps on going and keeps on going. And there are variations. There's a lot of questions, and we just don't really know what's going on. But with some of the sightings in particular, the witnesses many times saw these things literally manifest like it was coming out of a doorway, and the other way around, it would vanish like it was going through an invisible doorway.
Like a portal they can open sort of and go in and out of, right? So
we had a lot of sightings in and around the cargo areas on the southwest side of O'Hara International. And there's a cemetery there, actually. And the area around the cemetery, I believe, has got at least one portal there or some type of opening, because we had a lot of sightings around there. And our investigation and some of the witness statements just make me feel that, like, and my whole opinion on cryptids for the most part is that they're ultra-terrestrials. There are, just like in Bigfoot, I think there are areas where they do actually exist on our Earth plane and have family groups and such. But for the most part, I think they just come in and out, keep their form, keep their physical form. They have some type of supernatural abilities to do that, to cloak themselves and such. All in all, probably 20 years down the road, we'll find out it's all connected somehow, So, but I think the whole ultra-terrestrial phenomena, either with cryptids or supposed alien beings or extraterrestrials and other phenomena that we run across, some of the vanishing and cloaked humanoids and other things that we do investigate, I think that there's a very, very close connection with it.
Do you have a take on things such as shapeshifters, like this being actually like possibly like a shapeshifter? I mean, some people really are big into that.
You mean like skinwalkers?
I'm kind of like Skinwalker, and the Native Americans.
Yeah, Skinwalker is actually a human who's supposedly a witch or a Navajo witch or whatever Hopi tribe or such that has the abilities to shapeshift. Just like you would say with someone with lycanthropy that has the ability to act like a wolf or what else. I think, in fact, I used to be involved with some people who used to do investigations out at the Dene Navajo reservation, particularly in New Mexico. And there's a lot of weird stuff going on out there. And I talked to several people mostly younger people, because the older folks don't like talking about it, but the younger ones hear what the older folks say, and that come around, but some of them have had their own encounters. So, yeah, but I don't think I don't think that has much to do with ultra terrestrial or and such. I think that form of shape shifting is more. Yeah, it's supernatural. It could be something to do with magical or some type of thing with religion. But I think for the most part, it's somewhat different than what we're seeing with these cryptids and other beings.
Yeah, that's my take on it too. Yeah.
When we were studying with the Gnostics. They were teaching us astral projection, and they taught us that the way the universe is set up with dimensions is that God is like the center, like a ball at the center of an onion, and then there's 11 layers out from God, and each one is further away from God, and therefore less pleasant dimension, I guess. And we supposedly occupy dimension 10. And so we have one below us and one above us. And the Gnostics, their take on it is that some of these beings are coming up from the lower dimension, trying to break into ours, or successfully breaking into ours. And I was wondering about your take on that.
Yeah, well, that sounds logical. I mean, I've heard many times about the 11 dimensions,
right,
including our Earth plane. But the whole mechanism of how it happens and the abilities that they have to move between these worlds, of course, we have no knowledge about that. When quantum physics becomes more commercial, maybe we'll find out a little bit more at some point.
Well, this interdimensional travel, you're not the first person to talk like these beings are moving through dimensions, and I think maybe these some of the ones that look like Pleiadians, the elegant, tall, glowing white creatures that people are describing. I'm wondering if they could be from the higher dimensions, and the shadowmen and the people that
black-eyed children. Yeah,
and the black-eyed children. They're maybe from a lower dimension, trying to break upward, trying to come in.
Yeah,
but that's just our kind of theory of it. Maybe.
Look, the shadow beings are definitely not of a human origin.
Right.
They're an energy, but they seem and act more like an invasive energy as opposed to something that is coming from a life force that has died and there's a soul or there's an energy associated with that.
It doesn't feel like our dearly departed,
Yeah, they're just soulless. I mean, there's they're very dangerous. I mean, I have been involved with cases with people who have seen these shadow beings, have had them in their homes and such for years.
Right.
And a lot of that has to do with very similar to poltergeist, though it's the negative energy around the location, the family, or other things that are going on can feed into that. And as long as that's going on and they're gaining power from it and they're sustaining themselves off of that, they're going to stick around. You go to a case with a shadow being and you're not going to do anything to move it off. The best thing you can do, just like with the poltergeist case, is to get the people who are the experiencers, people that are having the issues, to tamp down all the negative energy, because it always starts somewhere within the family or within the group that's there.
You think so?
Even if it's an individual, it's something to do with something that's in their life that is causing them to literally mind manifest these beings. So as far as shadow people go, that's not a mind manifestation. That's an actual energy.
Yeah. I've had a couple of interactions with one.
Yeah, a poltergeist is basically a thought form of man manifestation that kind of gets out of control and just feeds off all the negative energy around them. And it's up to the people, especially the person who's manifesting it, to either calm themselves down or try to tamp down all the negative energy so this thing will eventually move on. And they will eventually move on. So, but bring in an investigator. Yeah, the investigator can come in there and tell you what they think is going on. and try to offer direction, but they can't move anything on. It's not like it's the dead life force that still remains on our plane and didn't move on to the next level it was really supposed to go to.
Yeah, that's what I especially, well, I've got this theory about ghosts, how if, when I was astral projecting at the astral realm, it's where your soul is moving. It isn't really all that different from our existing plane, our physical plane.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I bet there's a lot of things that are strange there, but my point is you kind of would feel normal and there. And if you were suddenly blasted out of your body, like let's say you're on the field of Gettysburg and a cannonball goes through you,
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't even know you were dead. You'd be blasted out of your body so fast. And I think that's what happens with ghosts, is they don't realize they're dead sometimes.
No, most of them don't realize they're dead. They're trying to communicate somehow with the living, and they're trying to make it known to them that they're around. That's a haunting, basically by making noise or moving things, or if they have enough energy to move things around, or in bigger cases where they have the ability to project sound to make, like voice sound, and people can hear it.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's somebody that one of the living is psychically in tune to that and can pick up on things like that, yeah, it happens. But it comes to so many different levels. I mean, I've been in cases where we've done remote view, and it gets pretty harrowing sometimes. I've had some really crazy cases involving remote viewing, then eventually doing the clearings if we can, but getting down and dirty with what's really going on.
Could you give us an example of one of them?
Oh God! Well, I'd say the most harrowing one. Well, I've had a couple, but I'd say the most interesting one was it was a case we were doing in Suffolk, not Suffolk, Surrey, south of London.
Mm-hmm.
It was a case we had remote viewed, but my team was actually in Wales at the time, and they had traveled down to London to do some of the work, and I was going online to work with them, but I was doing RV online with them, and as far as when they were at the location, I'd be watching, and we were using Skype back then for the best we could use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just communicating with them about that. But anyway, we had some of the people on the team had gone into the home. There was a lot of disturbance when their young toddler was seeing something in a mirror a lot, and it was mentioning it to the parents. It saw a middle-aged man, didn't know who it was, but eventually described it to a T because we got a photograph of it. And, it was exactly what the kid had said. But anyway, we were doing some investigations, we were trying to pick up on things. I was going through the whole remote viewing protocol. We had done it 2 or 3 times actually. And we had made notes and such. So we decided to go a little deeper into the case, and we started talking to the people who were living there. Now, they had just bought that house like 3 or 4 years previous to that. It was an old, back in after World War II, they built a lot of houses around London because, soldiers coming back and stuff. And there was just houses everywhere. They were like, right up against each other. So this was one of those houses. It was an area in Surrey called Leatherneck. That was the name of the neighborhood. So anyway, we got to talking to the family and such, and I was picking up on the removed. I was literally being part of one of the people who this whole case revolved around. The girl who was living there at the time when this originally happened. What happened was she had committed suicide. Now, she was fine until her father had passed away, and when her father passed away, she kind of went to recluse and was spending a lot of time in the attic, reading up there, spending time up there. It was just a really involved case. But when I started doing the RV, I literally at one point became her. I was literally on the other end of that rope at one point.
Wow.
And
you felt like a possession kind of scenario?
Well, it wasn't really that. You know, when you're RVing, you do pick up on little things, and it's nothing you're really supposed to be psychically attuned, but like eventually it does become a psychic endeavor, honestly. Right. What she had done, she had strung the rope up on one of the raptors in the attic, and it fell through the hole that they went, put the got access to it where they had the ladder come down. Well, she dropped through that. And, I had the whole sense that this was a mistake. I mean, I was acting like her. She regretted every bit of it. It kept coming back to me, telling me she regretted doing it. She shouldn't have done it. This and this and that. So anyway, we were looking into that. We were trying to get the history of the house. And then not long after we had started this, the former owner of the house, this girl's mother, wanted to come and look around the house one day. And there was something she missed. She really felt that she had to be there for some reason. Well, anyway, when the family allowed it, they figured she's just going to walk through and see a few things, mention a few stories, and that'd be it. Well, she went to the stairs, went upstairs. Upstairs. She literally had to have the man who lived there pick her up and take her because she couldn't hardly get upstairs anymore. She was that determined to get up there. And at the top of the landing was that access door to the attic.
Yeah. And
she just stood there crying, not saying a word, looking up into that attic door, not knowing, not saying a word. And then she, after a couple minutes or so, she said, okay, I'm going to leave. And he had to carry her back down the steps. And they had, I don't even know what happened to her. She was very elderly. But anyway, when they told me that, I almost fainted because that is the exact same thing I sensed, that she missed her daughter. And she didn't say anything to them about suicide. She didn't say anything about anybody else. But as time went on and we got deeper and deeper into this case, I started seeing more and more of a middle-aged man who had been either attached to the girl or something. He was something to do with the house, but before they had moved in, maybe he was somebody who lived there and such. But anyway, this guy was attached to her, and I think he was the reason why she committed suicide. I think she literally got basically talked into doing that for whatever reason. This guy was, and this guy was evil. He really was evil.
Malevolent spirit. Okay.
And he did move on. We did get him to move on, but it took a while.
Wow.
But that was probably one of the most graphic cases I've been involved with as far as, attachments and hauntings and such. There were others. Wow. I had one up in Prince Edward Island where the woman was being attacked and assaulted by her dead father, and he literally threw us. He had a. I was in the middle of an RV at the time, and I don't know if I cornered him or whatever. And I'm glad I had a monitor there because she pulled me out of it. But he had it. I was psychically attacked, and in fact, I had a laceration from about my sternum down to my belly button.
Wow. One line, or was it in a line of three?
No, it was just one line, one straight line. It came down. And, it drew blood. I'm 1,500 miles away from this where this happened at. So And that's not the only psychic attack. I had bruised ribs at another point during a psychic attack. So it does happen. It's part and parcel of what you do.
Yep.
I didn't realize it could manifest so physically.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I know the demon phenomenon. People report these 3 scratches, parallel scratches on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, I'm really trying to sift out what are demons, what are the shadowmen, what are ghosts, and are these different phenomena or different manifestations of the same phenomenon? I find it very confusing.
Yeah, it could be. Look, I don't like using the word demon. I try to avoid that at all costs when I'm even writing or doing investigations. So evil is evil in my mind. And,
Right.
if it's more inclined to do more horrific things and shock more people, then maybe there is a deeper influence there. I've always looked at evil as evil and made do with what I was presented.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
Yep. Well, folks, we are at the hour and 15-minute mark before we go into like another hour's worth of topics.
Well, I did want to ask another question before that.
I just want to keep you apprised.
Okay, thanks. Steve is our timekeeper. The black-eyed children, have you ever done any investigations into them?
Yeah, I have several.
What did you find? What were your findings on that?
I think they're regular humans, but I think they're possessed somehow. I think they're probably possessed by some ultra-terrestrial energy. I don't think it's Earth-based. They do go through the manifestations with the black eyes, but it's just not all kids. You hear about the black-eyed kids because they're the ones out roaming around and stuff. But we've had several adult encounters as well. And,
that's true. I have heard of that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So even white eyes, we've had people who have seen these beings with white eyes.
Well,
are they shapeshifters? They could be. I mean, are they picking up something that causes them to do that? I think there is an actual possession of some type. I think it's more possession than attachment because it just seems to linger on. But many times when you do run across one of these beings or you're looking into it, you don't run across that same person again for whatever reason. Even if other people have an encounter, I honestly don't even remember, other than one case, which led to a house fire, actually, where people had encountered the same being twice or more times.
Mm-hmm.
The black-eyed children. Have you heard of any incidents where people unwisely let them in?
Yeah, and they were quickly removed. Many times they come in, they give these excuses. Well, we want to use the phone, or we got to call somebody, and this and that. And the 2 in particular that I remember are they did let this person in. They were going to call. They didn't call. They were asking a lot of questions, and it just creeped everybody out, and they eventually got them out of there. So it wasn't like they got in the house, stayed in the house, and killed everybody, and and then left. No, they eventually got them out. But
I heard of one instance where they were attacked. The people that let in these children were attacked. But I was wondering if you heard of something similar.
The ones I had where they were just threatened and tried all kinds of means to have them let them stay there without an incident. And of course, when they said, "Well, we're going to call the police and this and that," then they haul. So
Have you done any research into the Chestnut Ridge? I believe that does extend into Pennsylvania, doesn't it?
Oh, it's mostly in Pennsylvania. It extends from Westmoreland County south into West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes on there. That's a hot spot.
Very hot, right?
There's been so much phenomena associated with the Chestnut Ridge and other areas on both slopes that it's just hard to imagine and to understand. But I I have been involved with a lot of investigators who have been doing it, working there for years, Stan Gordon in particular and others, where they've had a lot of weird stuff, Bigfoot encounters and UFO connections. And
that's what I mean. Yeah,
Black
it's supposed to
Panthers.
be both, really.
Yeah,
Hotspot for both things.
Yeah, I mean, hot spots are everywhere. I mean, here in
That's true.
Pennsylvania,
You look at the map of the U.S. with where the sightings are. That the whole map is green, pretty much.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, there's just a lot of those liminal areas where a lot of things, either because of geography or just imprint from past activity and such, or it just seems an area where whatever's going on is attracted there. But that area does seem to have a more unexplained activity than most places do.
Indeed. So what's your next project coming
Whatever
up?
comes up.
Yeah, you don't have anything in. Would you like to share anything with the audience as far as something coming up that they should keep an eye out for?
Well, I'm working with a production company now, and I'm doing some production work and writing with them. Jersey Shore Entertainment. We're working on a possible series for what I do, my team and myself. There's a few other projects. We've got a few irons in the fire, other scripts and other projects. I can't really talk about,
I understand.
The NDAs and
that's right. And I forgot when I was introducing you, a screenwriter was one of the things I missed saying, but you're also doing that too, I take it.
Yeah, there's, this, and particularly with what we had been doing with the Chicago sightings and encounters and the books we wrote and these shows and other things that people then saw, then took an interest and thought, well, maybe we'll do this too. So, so that's mostly what we're doing. But the projects that are coming up in the future are just a conglomeration of almost everything I've been involved with. So we'll see how that goes.
Cool. All right. Well, we want to thank you so much for being our guest tonight, and we'll probably air your episode next Friday.
Right.
Not this tomorrow, of course, but the Friday after.
Right.
And of course, I'll send you a link and all that. And tell us one more time the name of your most recent book that people could pick up.
Glimmerman, Cloaked Beings That Move Among Us. It's only been up on Amazon about 3 weeks now.
And how do people listen in to the radio show? Is it streaming now?
Yeah, well, you can go to my YouTube site. Just put in Phantoms and Monsters Radio. The site will come up. We got all our live shows on there, and I do a live show every Friday night. Okay, so the YouTube channel. Everyone tune in to that Friday night. That's exciting, and that's when our show comes out too. It's Fridays.
We had some nice, sometimes some animation, but like to our shows, we add some definitely some nice graphics to highlight certain points. So we just don't do an interview. We also interlace it with some graphics that Leslie makes.
Yeah.
So it makes it a classier show.
Oh, don't give me credit. It's the brilliant AI computer that's doing the work.
Direct it. You got to give it.
That's true.
Modify.
I orchestrate it.
So.
Yeah. You got to learn the prompts and everything else that goes along with it. I know.
It's so difficult.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It is. Okay, folks.
All right. Thanks again, Lon, and have a wonderful the rest of your evening.
Stay warm.
That's right.
Leslie, you're kidding me.
What?
Our merchandise store is up?
Of course, my darling. All of our amazing concepts of shirts, mugs, and bumper stickers are ready to go.
No way.
Way.
Even my brilliant Egyptian concept that no one else ever thought of before?
Yes, that one too, and lots more. All at our new store at etsy.com/shop/abductions101.
Wow. I want a shirt and a mug and...
Well, Stephen, and all our curious listeners, just go to etsy.com/shop/abductions101 to see all of our unique designs.
I'm going there.